Today we are talking about the IMF, and I'm sure most of you might have heard of it and how this government has made so much noise about the IMF and how we wouldn't return back to the International Monetary Fund. And so we want to talk some things more about the IMF. Um, First of all, I'd like to ask you, you did economics, so I'd like to ask you, what is the IMF, is going back to the IMF a bad thing? Why is Ghana now returning to the IMF?
Okay, so if you understand what the IMF stands for and what they do, you going there wouldn't be a problem.
Yeah.
So you see, IMF basically helps you manage your economy by stabilizing your economy. They don't run your economy. They don't enforce you to do certain things, even though there are conditionalities. Because even when you go for loans, there's a condition.
Yeah.
You have to agree by the terms and conditions. So
make sure that you'll be able to pay back. Yeah.
Yes. So IMF just basically do, I would say, two major things. One, stabilizing your economy. Two, giving you policy credibility to raise investors. And probably three, helps you raise revenue.
So basically they are there to stabilize.
Yeah, they're just there to ensure stability in your economic.
What I heard was that they run fiscal consolidation. So
Yes.
that they make sure that you don't spend unnecessarily.
Yeah, so it's just check and
they
balance.
manage your projects.
Yes.
To make sure they are not overpriced.
Yes.
So the IMF on its basic scale is not a bad thing.
No,
they are a good institution.
Why
are we returning
to IMF?
Yes, especially this government.
So I would say the pandemic played a role.
Yeah.
The
overspending
played a role, and the Russian-Ukraine war also played a role in forcing the government to go to IMF. How?
Yes.
The question is how. When you look at overspending, you see
overspending on what?
On government budgets. Like, let me put it in this context. When you perceive to run a socialist economy, right, where everything is entirely provided by the government, you tend to spend more. When you run a capitalist economy, whereby predominantly is the industrial or the private or the industrial side of the economy that's running the whole nation, then obviously, then that's why when you run a capitalist economy, it's much more expensive because of the industrial way of things. You need high energy, you need this, you need that. But looking at what happened, okay, government for the last 4 years, not this second term, the first term, ran, I would say, a high deficit on social programs or policies. For example, free years is a high social program. For example, one district, one dam is a high socially good. And there are a series of social interventions that the government put in place to help alleviate this stress, I think economic stress or poverty or any kind of. So NAPCO was one. Yeah. So all these things bring high budget on you. You need to raise revenue. And there were, when they got last 4 years, there were certain tax exemptions. You get it. So there was a big reduction in revenue. The government as a whole, 4 years ago, prior to the re-election, were facing. If you check, if people should go out and start studying the economy and the GDP growth from 2017 to date. You realize after 2017, 2018, thereabout, obviously, the government was starting to face shortage of revenue because of certain implementation and whatever he was trying to achieve. Then run on to 2020 election, obviously they're going to be way high spending. On the real, that was from 2017 till now. Government fall short of its revenue production.
So
they were spending way overboard.
So excessive spending, and then we had social programs which made us spend more.
Uh,
And we had a pandemic
yes.
and the Russian-Ukraine war, which is
So at the end of the day, you realize that
it's a combination.
it's a combination, because if there was no COVID, obviously there's a high expectation of revenue production
but the previous
or mobilization.
I think even with that, the previous government took us to the IMF with no global pandemic. I also think another reason we are going to the IMF is because we have run a high debt to GDP ratio. They say above the threshold of developing countries.
Yes.
So what happens is that the international market has shut off Ghana from accessing funds. Of course, because of what you said, too much borrowing, too much spending. And so what has happened, we are broke. We don't have anywhere to go to. But when you enter the IMF, it gives you credibility.
Yes.
Because the IMF is known for stabilizing the economy. So it gives Ghana some form of credibility. So investors know that when I give money to Ghana, I'm going to get my share back. And they are going to use it for sensible projects that they said they'll use it for. So that's another thing, to give Ghana credibility on the international market.
But then let me chip in this. Okay, so you just don't wake up and go to the IMF and just IMF, I'm coming to you, so help me. That's not how IMF works. You see, every nation is a sovereign nation.
Yeah.
Whatever you do,
apart from Ukraine,
whatever you do is within your own. Let's say you manage your economy.
Yeah.
But then, just as you made a point of boosting investor confidence and bringing credibility, it all boils down to the fact that, you see, when you're investing, when you learn a bit of investment, you get to know that it's very volatile. That means the listing, it changes.
You can lose your money
in a second. So when there's that surety that when I invest in this kind of country or this kind of whatever it may be, I'm getting my returns back. So IMF put in place that measures. However, you should also bring forward your policies. Because how then do you raise money to finance yourself? So the e-levy came at the right time. So let me tell you why e-levy was meant to come. And a lot of people didn't understand. E-levy was meant to come to position Ghana in a better way, because they knew we would obviously go to IMF, and we can't just go to IMF just like that.
Yeah,
you have to show
something. I think they called it securitized.
The minute the e-levy came wasn't because of to solve the economic problem.
I mean, it couldn't, because it said 6.9 billion.
It was
less than $1 billion.
And probably they even calculated and knew that they will even not get up to 10% of whatever they expect to get.
Okay, that's actually good. So why didn't the e-levy work?
Okay, so with e-levy, as I said, they knew it wouldn't work. Because, you see, there's one thing a lot of people don't understand about tax. As far as there's tax invasion. Taxation in itself is the ideal way for government to raise revenue. However, in the formalized economy like the US, where you can easily be taxed, there's still
trace your activity.
Yes, there's still huge tax invasion by companies and the rest. How much more a country which has a huge informal sector? You get it. So I would say e-levy was hugely opposed by the public. The e-levy was not introduced to change the economy. However, it was introduced to position us in a way,
light.
Yes, in order to achieve IMF.
So that's, I think, the widest tax net we've ever had.
Yeah,
because it cuts across anyway.
The funny thing is, IMF will give their money to who? The same people who mismanage the economy. And what's the guarantee that they are going to use their money for the right purposes?
I think Kenny Japan said it best. He said the people who took you to IMF are not the same people who will take you out of it.
Yes.
Because why did we go? Basically, Charlie.
So at the end of the day,
Ghana will have problems. This country or this continent, Nigeria, they are not the one go there. They go roundabout.
We
start with high hopes and then we come back to where we are, and we are like, but Charlie, this being the end, I think it's been very educative. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next week.